Joining me now to discuss further, senior fellow for America First, the America First Policy Institute, and author of The Iran House, Tales of Revolution, Persecution, War, and Intrigue, Kenneth Timmerman. Also joining us, former Pentagon official, senior research fellow for naval warfare at the Heritage Foundation, Brent Sadler. Gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us on.
A lot to get to. Of course, we're keeping our eyes on this image out of the G7, and President expected to address the press and perhaps give us more detail on the MOU. So let's start there. This is the final day of the G7. A lot has been accomplished, so I'll get your take on that as well. But let's tackle this MOU, and let's start with you, Kenneth. From what's been leaked, again, we don't have the official text, but several media outlets, Axios among them, reporting that the memo of understanding includes sanctions and waivers to be removed right away, that Iran would get about $300 billion in rebuilding money. That would come from other nations. The president was very clear again today, no U.S. dollar will be part of that, but he said, I can't prevent others from investing, right? But he said on the flip side of that, Iran will not now nor ever have a nuclear weapon. He sounded very confident, Ken. What concerns you? What's missing? You know human rights violations in this country very well. You know their subterranean missile capability very well. What worries you about what's missing?
Well, Shannon, first of all, I don't trust Axios at all, and I don't trust the leaks. If you look at the leaks from the Iranian side and also to Axios on the American side, they are worlds apart. We do not know the details of this deal yet. I want to hear the president read the MOU word by word, which is what he said he will do. You're absolutely correct. There's no mention of human rights violations, but let's be clear about this. Let's be honest. That was not one of the war aims that the president set forward. This deal appears to be performance-based. There is no upfront money, according to J.D. Vance. There's no upfront sanctions relief. Everything depends on what the Iranians deliver. And here's the good news, is that inside Iran itself, the hardliners are very upset. You've had demonstrations against the regime by hardline protesters. The United States has destroyed most of Iran's military. We've shattered their economy. We've pitted the regime against itself. We've showcased Israel as America's new special relationship partner, and we have not closed the door to the Iranian people to revolt. I would suggest that now is the time for the Iranian people to step up to the plate.
Brent, the president was unequivocal. He said he was 99.9% certain, that's pretty certain, that they will never get a nuclear weapon. Here's the president earlier today.
I don't like it. We'll go back to shooting at them, dropping bombs on their head. If I don't like it, if they don't behave, we'll go right back to dropping bombs right smack in the middle of their head.
Okay, he didn't mince words there. That was in a bilateral meeting with the president of Egypt just this morning. Brent, I think what Americans need to understand is we have 4 deployed forces in the region. It's a flip of a switch for the president to return to kinetic strikes.
Yes, and that leverage needs to stay there, and the Iranians should be reminded of it. It's refreshing to see the president talk so clearly and explicitly about what the consequences would be for the Iranians to slow or try to deceive this process moving forward. But it's important to note, this is not a conventional kind of diplomatic agreement or process that's unfolding. It's very much in President Trump's character, and it will be fluid and it will be kind of dynamic as we go forward, as it needs to be, to deal with the realities on the ground and the changing political nature in Iran. At the same time, the president's, if you go back to the art of the deal, using and understanding what leverage you have and understanding the market, in this case, the political environment in Tehran, is key. It's going to change, and so will the president's approach. And I think that's where we'll have the most hope for having success in this, this process. Hopefully, in the long term, it'll change the nature of the regime to one that's able to live peacefully with its neighbors, to include Israel, and doesn't try to kill Americans.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Kenneth, I do want to ask you this, though, and I hear you. We need to wait for the text of the MOU, so we're all very clear and on the same sheet of music with this. Indications are that once sanction relief start to occur and money starts to, roll back into Iran, from the other nations. Once again, the president said that would not be U.S. money whatsoever. But once they start getting that money back into their country, they can reconstitute and rebuild. And this 60 days is a lot of time, especially in the Middle East. Does that concern you?
It does, Shannon, and you're absolutely right about that. The sanctions relief would be Iranian assets that have been frozen in other countries for the purchase of Iranian oil, whether it's India or South Korea or other places. Look, I think the real pitfall of this deal is that it is based on Iran changing its behavior. We have tried this many times before. President Trump is not the first president who's tried to change the behavior of the regime. I've argued for almost 30 years that this regime will never change its behavior. Instead, we have to help the Iranian people to change the regime. Why won't they change their behavior? Because the behavior, whether it's getting nukes, whether it's ballistic missiles, whether it's spreading the revolution around the world, these are core goals of the Islamic regime in Iran, and they won't give them up.
No, they won't. Brent Sadler, Kenneth Timmerman, gentlemen, thanks so much for your time and your thoughts this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.